In this video, we're going to take a look at some of the object properties such as density, compensation, and underlay. And now those aren't always the object properties. They are the object properties that relate to embroidery and specifically to things like fills and satin columns, where you're going to have to measure things like density, which is the distance between two rows of stitches. So the measurement from here to here is 0.4. And if I want to, I can take control of the density by clicking the checkbox, which allows me to change this value. And if I make it 0.3, I get more rows of stitches, more density. And if I make it, I don't know, number 1 millimeter, I get less, more distance in between the rows, less stitches. And so that's how you can take control of the density. Now, the next setting is called compensation, and that has to do with the fact that when we embroider things like a satin column, that the column gets skinnier. And so we compensate for this effect of pull. That pull is going to make it skinnier, and it's based upon, I guess, a few things. The high-speed movement of your sewing machine, combined with the tension of the thread coming down the machine, combined with the give or the stretch of the fabric, satin columns just get skinnier. Even large filled shapes get skinnier, smaller. And so this compensation is our ability to increase it. So it's set at 0.2. If you want, you can take control and just increase the number to 0.5. And so imagine here we have a satin column and it's 2 millimeters wide, and we've added 0.5 of a millimeter to each side. So in total, that's like adding an additional millimeter. So really we're saying we're creating something that's 3 millimeters, but the end result is it's going to pull. And we know that it'll probably, in the reality, turn out be around, 2 millimeters wide. And that's the idea with compensation and why we have it. Now, underlay, this is a very important setting because it speaks to the quality of the embroidery. The stitches that sew first are what are called underlay stitches, and they support the top stitching. And so looking at this satin column again, and if I use that slow redraw, and I'll just start it, and actually I'm just going to click on the black, and maybe I'll just, let's go back a little bit. Stop. Okay. So there's my satin column. And because I've set my spacing at 1 millimeter apart, it literally has no underlay whatsoever. Now, let's stop using slow redraw. Let's select the shape. Let's turn that density back to the default setting, which would be, now the software knows that it's meant to be like a fully covered column. And let's use slow redraw again and press start. And again, I'm just going to advance it into the black. Okay, so let me start it again. So what you're seeing is a cross underlay. See, if I stop it now and zoom in, so you can see here a row of stitching that was placed first. That was the default underlay for this shape. And again, we click on it and look here. So the underlay was set at cross. Now, if I choose the underlay selection box, now I can take control of the choice of cross, and you see all the styles available. So we have tacking, which is the limited amount, just travel, around the shape as needed and then make the column. Single, which will put a single line of run stitch down the center of the columns. Double, which is like walking around the edges, so make sure that you put a line on each side. And when you've got a small, skinny satin column, single's enough. But as you get wider and your columns get sort of bigger, double is good. Or sometimes we put zigzag, which will be across the center of it. Or cross, which is kind of like zigzag, but changing the angle and basically increasing the length of that underlay. So there's similar styles. And then these ones are combinations, which is zigzag plus double, or cross plus double, or netting plus, and double zigzag plus. So these are all the different choices. And just as an example, I'll go to zigzag plus. And we'll hit slow redraw, and I'm going to try and pick it. There you go. So we don't have to watch it sew as much as you can see right away. There's the double. There's the zigzag, and see how the zigzag is much more open than that cross was? And there's my satin column that's sewing along. So I can't teach you everything about underlay in a short 5-minute video, but I wanted to show you that you have the ability to choose underlays and density and compensation with these settings here found in your object properties.